Well, g'day, welcome back to Das Customs. And there's been developments, as per usual. The way I work, things develop. And, you know, seeing this car in the middle of the floor, one might think, you know, I'm going to work on this thing. Kinda. Basically what I'm doing is just robbing all its bits. I'm robbing the best bits off this car, which is kind of sad. But it's also kind of for a worthy cause. I've decided that, you know, it's taken much deliberation. But I've decided that building this, you know, race car, which is basically turning into, you know, the way it looks, the way it sits, you know, the wheels. Building it on an air ride pan, it's kind of pointless. How am I going to put 200 plus horsepower into the ground properly on a suspension setup that's not really designed to handle at all? I mean, I've driven that car. It handles horribly. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought I'm just going after an unworthy cause. So, as you'll see in this episode, unfortunately, the most important part of this whole build that I'm about to start, which I was planning on doing this weekend, hasn't shown up. Yeah, it got sent. And, you know, I've talked to you guys before about the shipping problems we have in Australia. So this parcel that I ordered on Monday, it's now Friday. It came from Sydney, and from Sydney it, you know, should have come here to northern New South Wales, but it didn't. It went half an hour away to the Gold Coast, and instead of just going, oh, here, it's at the Gold Coast, we'll get it to you. No. What they've done is they've sent it back to Sydney, because that's New South Wales and that's Queensland. So they sent it back to Sydney, and now it's going to get back to me, which, you know, they're saying Monday at best. So that's the weekend cooked on that part. And what I'm talking about is the front nose section of a ball joint pan. Because what I have acquired is something that's pretty special, but it needs modification to work. I've acquired, and I'll show you this later in the video. I'm going to pick it up tomorrow. It's a pan, fully built. It's got the Wolfberg West, which is the best quality pan halves built into it. It's got a really, really good Aaron Roberts gearbox in the back of it. It's a single side plate IRS gearbox built by a local guy who basically, if you're getting a box built in Australia, he's pretty much the dude. And they're worth a pretty penny. But it ended up being that the fellow who I got the motor off for this car is just letting it all go. And, you know, I've just decided that I'm going to have it. But because I'm building this car now, it's going to be basically a street race car. It's going to handle like great. And how he'd set the car up, it was going to handle pretty good. However, what I have bolted into the back of this car is this suspension setup called a Mendiola True Track. Not sure if that's how you pronounce it. It's how it's written, so that's how I'm saying it. It's got, you know, full disc brake setup in the back of it. It's got Fox shocks. It basically does away with the old Volkswagen torsion bars, and it is, you know, fully adjustable, this setup. It's like you can adjust by these settings here. You can adjust your camber of your wheels. You can adjust lots of different stuff. Your spring rate, you can go up, you can go down. It's just, there's a lot of adjustment in it. I mean, the car, let's just be honest, it's probably not going to sit as prettily as it used to sit. It may not get as low, but it is sitting on 18s, and it didn't get that low anyway. So if I've got to make some modifications to make the thing get lower, a bit lower, I will. So having said that, what am I doing? I'm robbing this rear end. I'm robbing the whole rear suspension setup out of this car. I've decided to go away from the Subaru engine on this car. If anyone's looking for a WRX engine with an adapter plate, it's up for grabs. I'll have it advertised on Marketplace soon. It's gone. I probably will end up getting rid of this gearbox as well, because it doesn't actually fit this car. I'm probably going to put the single side plate that's in that car in here, and I'm building a Type 4 engine for this car, so maybe I won't get rid of this trans just yet. Building a Type 4 engine for this car, so it's going to be, you know, trick. And on a side note, as I've stripped the panels off this car, I reckon it looks kind of mad as an open wheeler. And I'm just thinking to myself, I could save myself so much trouble just building this thing as an open wheeler. It would look bloody cool, and you know, so more to come on that. Anyway, in the meanwhile, I'm going to strip the rear end out of this. I'm going to strip the front end out of this. This is a ball joint front end. It is the name of it. The front beam kind of slipped my mind right at this second. But I'm thinking I'm going to narrow that beam another couple of inches just to make this car work, because now I need a ball joint front end. I've ordered a ball joint nose pan for it because, you know, the ball joint system, let's just be honest, it does handle a bit better. It's got a bit more adjustment for camber and whatnot. So I'm going with a ball joint setup. Anyway, without further ado, let's start ripping this car apart. Righty-ho, well, here's the rest of the puzzle, or at least most of the puzzle. So basically I bought this pan for the trans. It's a single side plate IRS trans. Supposedly this style of setup was only 1 year that had, I don't know, it has a different, you know, bolts and adapters and used to have different mounts, but it's with this adapter plate, it's been made to suit the standard kind of Beetle mounts, trans mounts. It has this, what do I call this? Like a trans link, like a, I can't remember what they call it. It has this thing. It has all that set up in it, which I actually have another one of these, and I'll show you that in a second. This, it has the stock arms, stock trailing arms, still running the torsion bars in the tube, which is basically a big spring in there. The brake, the stud pattern on this is 5x130, so that's not going to work for me. What else isn't going to work on this thing? I mean, there's a bit of stuff that's not going to work. And realistically, what I want to do, like I spoke to you earlier, I want to bolt this setup to it. So this is that Mendiola True Track, which basically gets rid of the torsion tubes, springs, and replaces it with a coilover. One of the issues I've got with this, there's issues with everything. Combi axles, which are, they look the same, but they're not. They are slightly bigger than these ones, which are from a Beetle. So that means I have to pull the whole axle shaft out of there, swap them over. It's a job. I'm gonna have to do it. The other thing you might notice about this is it's very different than all the other ones that I've ever had, because this is out of a Super Beetle. Also the seat mounts, if you look at those, are not your standard Beetle seat mounts, they're Super Beetle mounts. Now, seat mounts, look, I could cut them out and weld a set of standard ones in, but I've got the seats there. So in my mind, because I'm not running stock seats anyway, I've got these, you know, low back buckets. I'm just going to trash these seats, cut the whole tops off them and weld, you know, brackets on there to take my seats, and then that whole system will just work as it should. Front end is a little different, however. I've ordered a ball joint front end for this. It hasn't shown up, as I said earlier. I've got to cut the front off this thing and try and cut it off in such a way that I don't destroy the Napoleon hat there, because the Napoleon hat is another $200 and I don't want to spend that if I don't have to. I'm going to see if I can do it. Look, it might be possible. I might be really, really wishful thinking there. Look, first things first, I don't have the front end, and you know, it's getting dark. So I'm thinking that what I'm going to do is just for a couple of hours, I'm going to strip this back end. And if I'm really excited, I'll start mounting that. The other thing is you have to fit this mendiola, the coilovers collide with this, the bump stop. So you actually have to cut all of this out. So that's probably something I'll do tomorrow as well because, you know, noise. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip all this rear end apart, get it to a point where I can actually start reassembly. All of this, including this, is going to go in the ute. And the True Track system is going to go in this car, you know, race car. We're building a race car. All right, cool. Let's get cracking. So I've removed the rear swing arms, you know, disconnected brake lines, everything like that. And you can see the difference, you know. I mean, these things are built out of, actually never unwrapped these, but these are built out of tube, you know, whereas this is all just pressed metal welded together. No bump stops in this setup. It's obviously, you know, a coilover setup. Unfortunately, I wanted to use this brake system. I feel like it's a better brake system than the one I have, but it doesn't fit the discs I've got. It's just a little bit of a different setup, so we're going to have to not use that. I realized that this rear brake setup is actually a Type 3 setup. I've got Type 3 hubs and discs. Type 3 had a removable disc. It's not a complete single unit. You know, different than the Type 1, which was a single. I mean, these are both obviously brake conversion kits. None of them ever came out with rear disc, but the even the Type 3, it had, you know, removable drums as well. So just a bit of a different setup. So what I'm up to now, I still have to remove the spring plates off the torsion tubes, which I'll probably do that. And now I need to cut. You need to remove the bump stop. Look, it probably does weaken it a little bit. Let's just be real, but you know, it's what they say you got to do in the catalogs. So obviously it's been done before. There's a web right there. See that web that actually goes all the way through to here and is basically that bottom plate. So we need to leave that on and just cut around it. So I'm going to start with the Recipro with a metal blade on it, and then I'll probably just clean it up with a flap disc on a grinder. This time I've actually, you know, gone ahead and wrapped everything up so I don't get grinder swarth in all my good grease. Trying to do things a little better. Righto, well anyway, that's the step for this morning, is cut these off, get this Mendiola True Track rear suspension set up on, and then of course I'm going to cut the front off. That'll be the next thing. Alright, for those who don't know, this is the rear spring on a VW Beetle. And obviously it works in torsion, so the spring twisting on the spline is what creates the spring tension. So basically, yep, remove it. Got to pull that rubber out of there. And the mendiola system, oh, you can see I've cut that side off there. Hopefully enough. I seem to remember last time I did this, I kept needing to clearance more. Let's hope I did enough this time. So the mendiola system, oh, I'll just pop it down there, is a very different setup. It has these that bolt on there. 1, 2, 3, 4. I wonder if I can use the bolts I pulled off that. Probably best to do that. So this plate bolts on there, and it actually has a circular washer in here that allows this to move up and down, which somehow, I haven't quite figured it out, that allows camber adjustment on your back wheels. It kind of doesn't make sense to me, but obviously it works. You wouldn't think that little bit of adjustment would do that, but pull those out. I'll leave all of that stuff together, the spring, the bolts, everything that came out of there. That way, when I have to put it back on that car over there, I've got it all. Righto, well, I'll install this bad boy. So there's no rubbers or anything needed in this. She just bolts on, and that's how it, that's how it works. Right, the other camera's dead, so hopefully this is clear enough on this one. So I'm slotting in the rear setup. Trying to line it all up can be a little bit tricky. So, you can see I've got it. Let's see if I can make it smaller. The jack set up. We're kind of trying to get it a bit level. I've pinned that in, and now I've just got to try and, there's a big washer that goes in between there, and then I've got to fit that in there as well. And then mount the shock up. I've got to make sure that all clears. So, it's a little bit of trial and error, a bit of fit, remove. Hopefully I don't have to take it apart too many times to make it work. But, so far it's all gone pretty smooth. Yeah, nothing really. I've never actually fitted this on the other car yet, so I'm hoping this all just kind of bolts through and does what it's meant to quite easily. I was going to change it out for the black ones that I have, but I don't think I can be bothered. I think I'll just leave it as is. A little bit of red in there is not going to hurt anyone. You don't see that anyway. It's all up under the car. Anyway, I'll keep cruising. So I've encountered the first problem, and the first problem is these bars just aren't long enough. Like, if I want that to work for this setup, it needs to be threaded all the way out. Now, would a spacer in there help? Maybe. I also feel that the triangulation of this K4 bar, that's what they're called, is also supporting, it's like doubling up the shock tower. Like, it's kind of, I've cut a heap away this side, but it's kind of coming through and supported both sides now, so it should be good. So I dug up the other ones I had, which are black, and they're longer, which is very interesting. I mean, is he making different sets for, I would have thought that was a one size fits all operation. I mean, let's have a look at these other ones. So I found the bags. They look the same. That looks the same to me. I don't think there's any difference between that. The other bits look the same. That's the same. Definitely. Actually, that's different. That is different. The other one, that is different. The other one has a bigger hole in it that sits around the head of that bolt. And so you can see that's kind of floppy in there. This one looks like it takes place of the washer. And actually, so I'm gonna change them out too, because I was wondering about that. What about the lengths of these other bars? I mean, these bars, I've got two different length bars here. Now, these were obviously sitting around when the blue combi was painted, which is a bit of a bummer, but that's how it goes. So those, they look the same as those, and those are the same as those. So the only difference is this middle bar, which is longer, which is going to hopefully make it all fit, because to me it felt, oh, wait up. Huh. That's where those other bars, that's where those other ones go with the smaller hole, is there. Yeah, right. I mean, I might be able to turn that up to make it shorter. I'm just having issues with lengths of things. So, And I wonder, see, notice how these bolts are different than every other bolt that VW uses. And I reckon those ones there were meant to go down here on the standard VW bolt, which is a big bolt. It's like, you know, I could find one and show you, but they're a very big bolt, whereas this one is a different sized bolt. And I reckon previous owner has changed them around. So I might use, because that to me, that's going to bang for sure in this car. I don't want that to bang. Anyway, I'm going to switch some stuff around, see if I can get this thing to work. Well, I'm going to have to call that a great success. This stuff, like getting all them bars to line up properly, it's kind of not easy, you know. I ended up getting frustrated because I couldn't thread the black one in. There's something wrong with the thread down there, so I got some red and some black, and that's just how it's going to be. And I also found that this rear mount here has to be in compression. Otherwise, we're going to be fouling with this rear end setup if I had it running straight. So that one's pushing, they're pulling, other ones are pulling. It's all a bit about how you tighten it up and make it work. Hopefully I know roughly what I'm doing. Anyway, so the next thing, you know, without further ado, I've got to actually change out these axle stubs. And I just did double check just to make sure. So what these are, I don't even know where I got them. These are a chromoly beetle to combi axle stub. And they're just not going to work because I've got, you know, beetle drive shafts. So what I'm going to have to do is pull the axle stubs out of that car and put them in this car. I think I better take some measurements because I'm looking at those axle stubs and they look a heck of a lot longer than these ones. Let's just do that real quick. Got a ruler. We'll just do a roughie to start with just to see if I'm even, you know, so I don't know, about 200 I could do it better than that, but I just need to know roughly. It's over 200 mil anyway, 220 maybe. And what are these? Yeah, they're the same. All right, so the length's good. So now I just need to disassemble them, reassemble them, and then I can put the axles in, and that's the rear end done. The rear end's, you know, will be buttoned up, ready to, you know, bolt the engine to. Of course, you know, I've still got the front end to address. If I can just get this front end hacked off, because, yep, Australian shipping, it sucks. I'm still waiting on that part, so, you know, I've got to just kind of move on. What I'll do is I'll probably cut it off, whack with a Recipro, and then I've got to unstitch the bottom section of this because the new one has a bottom section that goes in. So I've got to kind of just, it's going to be a lot of grinding. It's just going to be horrible. Lots and lots and lots of grinding. I'll probably try and unpick some of they've got big spot welds in here too. So probably try and do some of that and cutting and grinding. And I think the new one sleeves in under this Napoleon hat and then welds. You can see that weld there. And I just don't know how I'm going to do that. And I don't want to do it. I don't want the front end to snap off, basically. Let's just call it that. Anyway, I'll keep going. And there you can see the difference between the two axle stubs, this being the Beetle, which I've just pulled out of there. I realised I didn't even have to take that end cap off to get that out after fully disassembling this one. This one's chromoly. This one looks like it's cast. Would rather use these. But I'm not getting new discs just so I can. And it means a whole axle issue. That car has a Type 4 combi built trans in it. So I'm just going to leave the bits that match with the bits that match. We'll reinsert this bad boy and then see if we can bolt a set of wheels up. Well, that's it all put together there. That's the axles are back in. Look, these are not the tyres that it's going to be running on. So I've got to say I'm a little concerned with how high it's sitting. I don't know how I'm going to get this thing to sit where I want it to. I've got the springs wound all the way, what I imagine would make it the softest, which should be the lowest. But yeah, I mean, with an engine sitting in it, they obviously squat down a lot. Also, the tyre height, you know, is a big thing. These aren't the wheels that are going on this car. These are the wheels off the ute. So, you know, they will bring it down a bit. But anyway, for now, look, until I bolt an engine in it, I'm not going to worry about that too much. I guess what I'm going to do now is flip it around while I still got a bit of daylight. I'm going to unbolt the front brake reservoir, the master cylinder, and just start hacking. I'm just going to cut this thing off, you know. I'll spend a couple of hours grinding on it and just kind of see if I can get it, you know, to be something. It's a pity, you know, that it wasn't a pan that was already designed for what I want, but look, at the end of the day, sometimes you just got to make things happen. That's what we do here at Das Customs. Anyway, cracking on. And there it is, cut off. Now, I think I've come to a point where I think I just better stop. The other frame head hasn't come, and looking at pictures of it, I thought it sleeved in under here, but I don't think it does. I think it just welds on there, but the bottom bit replaces the bottom bit here. Measuring off my pan that's, you know, sitting over there, these holes on the Superbug, you know, pan, these holes here, they're actually wider than the other pan. It kind of finishes like flush there, and this one tends to hang past this stuff, you know. So I think I'm just going to leave it there until this other bit arrives. I don't want to cut off more than I need to. I may have already done that, but I'm pretty happy with the progress. Look, we got the back end built. You know, that's a major step in the right direction. Yet to know if actually, you know, that body just bolts straight to this pan. I think it does. I think the only difference in them was the mount here, the rear mount, which I've already cut off that car, and I was going to make a bolt-on mount that kind of was a bit more a bit more suited. You know, the gearbox is in. This is that, if you're from Australia, you probably know Aaron Roberts is the guy who builds our gearboxes. He's very good, and pretty much, you know, that's one of them. The Mendiola True Track system, that's it there. I'm yet to see, like I said, how far I can take this thing down. Am I going to have to chop them springs? Oof. I mean, do I have enough travel in them shocks to actually make this work? Is this thing actually going to work? I don't know. I want it to be low still, but I also want it to drive fast. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. I mean, $670mm is the size of that tyre. $620mm is the size of that tyre. That's it's at least 2 inches of difference. That's going to be an inch dropped just in the tyre size. Obviously, once you bolt a motor into them, they compress, you know. So I'm not going to worry too much about that until it's a problem. And on that note, I'm going to say goodbye, you know. It is that time. It's Sunday Arvo, and it's got to go back to work tomorrow. So, we're just going to pack this thing up, clean up the shop a bit, and get ready for a big day tomorrow. Anyway, with that, this is Das signing out. Exciting things to come, but I'll just have to catch you next time.